Welcome to Historified with Chestnut Square as we continue our 50th anniversary celebration. Jamie, what month is this?
It's March.
And what is so special about March?
It is Women's History Month.
Yes, women rock and women do things for history, especially the Historical Guild. This month we are going to indeed be talking about the women who began it all, as well as other women who were essential to McKinney's history and growth.
That's right, including the women who called our buildings home.
Okay, and the first two women that we're going to kind of just hit on a little bit today are Margaret Houston and Martha Schubert. Jamie, what do we know about them?
Well, we do know they, of course, were the driving force behind starting the Guild and starting Chestnut Square, which helps preserve McKinney's history.
Over the years, we've had people come in and talk to us about both Martha and Margaret, and their memories of them are just endearing. And if anyone else has memories of anybody who started Chestnut Square, especially Martha or Margaret Houston, if you could just reach out to us on our Facebook group or send us a text or an email at chestnutsquare.org, we would just really appreciate it because we do want to learn more about the personal history of these two wonderful ladies and all the ladies of Chestnut Square. So the first person that I'm going to be discussing today is Nancy Wilmoth, and she and her husband, J.B. Wilmoth, were key to starting one of the first free schools in Collin County, and they came to McKinney about 1845 all the way from Tennessee, and they came to Dallas to get the Peters Colony, 80 acres, and they were faced with many, many turmoils over their journey. They came with 10 children.
That's
it?
Only 10?
Only 10.
Okay.
As well as an infant. And what's interesting is they actually faced a Cherokee raid. And with the choice of more Indian attacks or going back to Tennessee, those are the two choices that she had, she sat on a log, crossed her arms, and told JB that she and her children were going to stay here in Texas and he could go back to Tennessee if he wanted to, but she was not. So that's what led them to come and settle here in McKinney. And JB was a really good friend of Colin McKinney. Some of their children are named after each other. So there is actually a Colin McKinney Wilmoth. Nancy was an expert spinner. She made their own clothes. She had silkworms that she brought. She actually drove one of her own wagons here that had all of her spinning supplies in it, as well as some silkworms. And she was just known in the area as being an expert weaver. So she is one of my heroes of Chestnut Square just because I love to just hear about her and about her tenacity and her grit.
We also have a picture of her son who she made his suit.
Yes, she made it literally from scratch.
It's so good. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Serious skills.
Yes. So,
are you hinting at me for something?
I think I'm hinting at you that it's your turn.
It is my turn. Well, it's really hard to go from one woman to the next woman like fluidly because they're so amazing and their strength is there. But we're going to move from Miss Nancy Wilmoth to Lucy Delaney. Now, there's no real order that we're going to be giving you these ladies here at the square. They're just as important as the other. But we're going to flow into Lucy Delaney, who we are actually sitting in her house. The Delaney house is her house, as well as the Delaney cottage was her house as well.
I do know that at the age of 14, Lucy did drive her family's wagon down here. They came from Missouri. So she drove the wagon with the horses and with all of their stuff at age 14.
And she was Lucy Field when they did arrive here. So she was obviously very young, unmarried, And it was here in McKinney where she met her husband, Joseph Delaney.
And what did Joseph do?
Joseph was a Civil War surgeon for the Confederate Army. And he was actually here in McKinney visiting his sister who had lived here. And he met Lucy. And it pretty much, history wrote itself. And they were married and they had a life together. And he built the cottage for her. And they lived in the cottage for quite some time. Now, something that's amazing about Lucy, and we of course will bring it up when we talk about the cottage in future episodes as well, is that for a time she was actually widowed with 3 children. And she had at one time been living in Tennessee, which we will get to that. And she had to come back to Texas all by herself with her 3 very young children and move back to the cottage, where she actually added on to the cottage herself she didn't do it by her hands. She had people help her, but with any material that she could find, including packing crates.
Yes, and we've uncovered some of those in the years that we've tried to keep up the cottage.
So, yeah, the cottage is one of those things that always needs a little extra love. But because of its age and the way that it was built, it's pretty understandably so that that's the case. But she lived there for quite some time. And unfortunately, Lucy had found a lot of grief and hardships in her life as well. She, as I said, she was a widow at one time with 3 young children. And at one time, she ended up losing one of her children as well at a young age. And so she raised her 2 remaining living children to adulthood. And eventually they moved here into the Delaney house, which if you remember our first episode, and if you haven't seen it, be sure to click and watch it. We talk about the Delaney house and how it was built. And this ended up becoming Lucy's home with her 2 adult children. And she lived here until her 90s.
Mm-hmm. She passed away at 97.
Yeah, and it was quite a big deal for a woman at that time to have such a grand home.
Yes. And another interesting fact about her is that when she passed away, she was the oldest living resident of Collin County at that time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you know?
The things you learn.
The things you learn at Chestnut Square. Even when you've been here for years, you're still learning something new.
Okay, and now on to our next woman. We are going to talk about Tabitha Taylor and the 2-Bit Taylor Inn. Not much is known about Tabitha except that she was a businesswoman, and she ran the Taylor Inn basically all by herself because her husband was a cabinet maker and he also was a coffin maker and just a carpenter. I think he did a little blacksmithing as well. So he kind of was not around to help too much run the Taylor Inn. But the things we do know about Tabitha is that if you were a salesman and you came to take a night or to spend the night in the Taylor Inn, you did not spit on her floor and you had to wipe your boots.
What about spit shining? You didn't do that?
No, I don't think so. Tabitha would not allow
just
it.
Me?
She did all of the housework. She would wash their clothes as well as their cooking, and she and her children kind of ran the Taylor Inn. So just the tenacity of these women just amazes me.
And now we are going to discuss Polly Johnson. Polly was the wife to our Captain John Johnson, who lived in our Johnson house. And we don't also have a lot of information from her as well, but we do have a couple really interesting facts about her. So one interesting thing is that her dad actually did not want Polly to marry Captain Johnson. Did he?
What?
No, I know. And so she took it upon herself to marry him anyway, and they eloped in the middle of the night on horseback, and I believe all she had wrapped around her was a blanket. Is that correct?
I think so, yes. That is correct.
And they eloped, and their history was made right there. She ended up following her husband down here to Texas.
Yes.
And in addition, another interesting fact was, so Captain John Johnson, we talk mostly about him when we're touring our Johnson house, but he actually had was responsible for his mother and his 2 sisters at a very young age, and ended up having to go to work. So he didn't have a lot of education, and he received some of his education from Polly herself.
Amazing.
I know. See that?
Yeah.
So that's what we know about Polly. They also had very many children, and only a few went to adulthood. So she had a lot of hardships as well. And again, strength and coming through. And, just like anyone, a man or woman, you do what you've got to do. And I love looking into these historic stories, and you just really see the strengths of humans and humankind and people, and doing what they need to do to survive.
And she also, Polly, I know this, she had a giving spirit. And so it was said that she kept apples in her closet.
That's right. I do
to
remember
give
that.
to people who visited. And he also kept apples in his armoire to hand out to anybody who visited who might need a little snack. So,
because fruit was hard to come by back then, so
Yes.
that was a big deal. And closets were hard to come by too. Just a sec. Hide your apples in your closets. I think I'm gonna start doing that. I'm just kidding. I'd probably forget about them.
yeah, and then they'd
Be all like
gross.
mushy, and I'd be like, it's an apple. I didn't have anybody come to visit me. I didn't have anybody to give an apple to. Visit your neighbors. You get
Yes.
an apple.
Give apples. So when you come to our property, you will see the Johnson house, and right behind it, or next to it, however you want to locate yourself, you will see the Dixie store. And the Dixie store is one of our little hidden gems. And the woman who it is named after is Dixie Brimmer Anderson. And we just received, as we discussed in our last podcast, we did receive a rather large donation of some of their family heirlooms and artifacts and correspondence. And so we're getting to know Dixie and the Anderson family pretty well. We're getting to know them kind of all over again. So it's interesting. And I know that there are people out there who actually did visit the Dixie store when it was in use. So some people did visit the Dixie store when it was in operation. And what's funny about Dixie is that if you came in to the Dixie store and you had a good report card, then she would give you a piece of candy. But if you came into the store and you misbehaved, then she would get out her paddle and you would get paddled. We still have the paddle over there.
We do. It's broken.
So
I don't know.
someone was bad.
Everyone asks, did she break it? I'm like, I don't know.
But Jamie, what is so interesting about that paddle besides that it's broken?
Okay, so if you were paddled, not only were you given the shame of being paddled, but you had to write your name on the paddle.
So when we get into the Dixie store, we're going to be focusing more on some of the interesting things over there, as well as the infamous
It's just more reason
paddle.
for you to follow us and subscribe here to Historified from Chestnut Square, which, by the way, I wonder if she did give M&Ms. Do you know M&Ms have been around since at least the 1940s?
Really? I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did. And they were so good. Should sponsor us.
Okay, anywho.
I thought that was an interesting tidbit.
That is an interesting tidbit. I did not know that about the M candy.
No, they were during World War II.
Yeah, I think they did because they wanted something.
They melt in your mouth, not in your hand. Chocolate.
Yes, I did see that on a TV show.
Chocolate was a big deal back then. They would send it out in their ration kits, and they would also give it to, as they went through Europe, they would give their chocolate to the kids.
I know Hershey was
Isn't that
big
nice?
too.
Yeah,
as well.
Hershey was big. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate.
So the way to Jamie's heart is obviously
Chocolate. Chocolate. I've got no shame.
I do know one thing that I just remembered about Margaret Houston. When she was a new bride, her husband was away a lot because of his job, and she lived with her in-laws, and she taught for 2 years at the New Hope School, and she saved all of her money so that when her husband could come back and they could buy a house, they could have furniture, and when they did eventually buy their home, she furnished it with furniture from the J.P. Dowell store in downtown McKinney.
It's a small world.
It's a very small world.
A small world makes the world go round.
And I bet Margaret knew the next person that we're going to talk about.
I guarantee she did, because everybody knew Bessie Hurd, also known as Miss Bess. Bessie and the Hurd family were a driving force here in McKinney. The family were a bunch of entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs.
I don't know why I try to say things.
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs. I don't know why I try. I don't know why I bother. But yes, they were a really big part of the downtown businesses, the Hurd family. And Bess was the daughter of Stephen Hurd. And she was a trailblazer on her own. She refused to ride side saddle on her bicycle at a time when it was not okay to do so. In addition to that as well, she just went to the beat of her own drum. It was very big of her to really focus on preservation was important to her, education was important to her, as well as the arts and nature. And she was the one who helped found the Hurd Museum.
The Natural History Museum.
Yes, thank you.
Lots and lots of school children have gone on field trips.
Yeah, I've been there. It's beautiful.
I actually went on a field trip when I was in school.
So
Long time ago.
And let me tell you, children, it was a long time ago. And so, yeah, she was a driving force in that as well. When the guild had started, she was a big supporter of here at Chestnut Square, and we have multiple pieces of furniture from the Hurd family that she herself donated. She was, even at one time, she was on the interior design team of Neiman Marcus.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she was.
That's amazing.
She went to, and there wasn't a big department of that, but she went to school out of the area here and became an interior design for Neiman Marcus. And then she left her very promising and successful career to come back to McKinney to take care of her parents. And she did just more than that when she came back as well.
What an amazing story.
I know.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the Hurd Craig house. It is open for tours as well.
Yes, it is. And it's also the place where the McKinney Arts meet quite a bit. And a lot of other clubs for women actually meet there.
Yeah. She was involved in a lot of things like that, as well as her mother was also an artist of fine china and a gardener. And their gardens are really beautiful too.
Yes. To this day. So those are just some of the women here at Chestnut Square that we have highlighted. I know that there are many, many, many other stories of women who helped Chestnut Square and who helped McKinney become what it is today. And women are still helping McKinney become what it is, or continuing the legacy of Chestnut Square and McKinney. So if you have any stories of these women or of other women that you want us to feature on our podcast on Historified, please reach out to us through social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can reach out on our website at www.chestnutsquare.org. And we would just love to include any other stories of McKinney history or the women of McKinney or any other things that you have experienced in McKinney. And hopefully we will be able to highlight those on future episodes of Historified. I think that's it. Is that it, Jamie?
No, that's not it. We've got more. Ready? Woo!
What are we wearing, Jamie?
We are wearing the most fashionable accessory that you can find in our Dixie store / Welcome Center. That's right. Eclipse glasses for the upcoming solar eclipse on April 8th.
Oh, and it's going to be a total solar eclipse that is coming through. And we have not been able to see a total eclipse in Texas since about 1861. And that was only visible through Fort Worth is the total eclipse.
I can't see the eclipse now.
I can't see anything.
I can't see anything.
But I do know.
I can see the circle light right there.
I do know that there are moon pies in front of me. So if you want to experience a solar eclipse and you need glasses, please come to our Dixie store. Like Jamie said, you might be able to even find a moon pie and have the solar eclipse glass moon pie combo. But you know what, Jamie? I have never had a moon pie before.
I've never had a moon pie either.
Ooh, we can do it live on.
All right.
Okay,
we are going to test these moon pies.
We're going to test out a moon pie.
Look, it says from 1917.
Do you know that they were from Chattanooga, Tennessee?
I did not.
I did know the history of moon pies.
It says so right there.
Okay. Do you want to try one?
You can microwave for an out of this world dessert. We're not going to do that.
We don't have a microwave up here. Ooh. I don't know if
What's
we're going to be able to
Is
break
it marshmallow?
I think it's marshmallow. You might need to. Oh, wait. Here, I got it. Which side do you want?
I'm going to take this one.
Okay. You ready?
I mean, okay. What? Okay.
One.
I'm just going to bite.
2, 3.
That's a good moon pie.
That's an interesting taste going in my mouth.
Oh, it's a graham cracker. You ever had one? Flies. You ever had one?
No, I've never had
Also, I think if you did microwave, it'd be like a s'more.
S'more, please.
S'more, please. Maybe on April 8th, we could have a moon pie eating contest.
Don't start throwing
during the
ideas out
solar
there.
eclipse.
You know what? I think we will have the public do that on their own. If you want to have a moon pie eating contest, we won't stop you. Just please throw all your garbage in the nearest receptacle so we can keep the Chestnut Square grounds beautiful.
And this is like falling apart.
That's really good. We need to do more of these often.
I can hear someone's phone.
That's fine.
It's Jamie.
Someone's calling me. They want a moon pie.